Well, so for publishers, ad serving is the foundation of a tech stack, right? It's where you're going to run the decision to decide which ad is going to be delivered to a particular user. So in the CTV space, the ad server, I think, is one of the most critical blocks of the entire chain. And really, it's going to be what allows you to do certain things or not, right? From a sales perspective, from a user experience perspective, it comes down to how your ad server handles things like ad breaks, like audience targeting. How are you connected with the buy side programmatically? Can you create deals to target specific positions in the pod? And so at Publica, we've focused exclusively on that piece of technology because our thinking is that in order to do everything else, the publishers first need to have great ownership and understanding of their ad serving technology. And I think one of the things I've been really trying to get across is that I believe we're at a unique moment in the television world. I mean, the first TV ad was delivered almost 80 years ago. It was a watch ad. I think it cost about $10 to run. And you fast forward 80 years later, we're running, billions of ads sold programmatically at scale. And I think we've hit with this transition of cable TV to digital TV, to connected TV. We've hit the renaissance of TV, the rebirth of a completely new medium, yet that users are very used to going to watch content of all sorts. And so I see the ad server as the foundational piece that allows everything else to happen, similar to back in the Renaissance, all the studies around lights and shades and how they impacted painting allow painters to take the art to a whole nother level. And that's really what I think we're trying to do here, is just set the foundations in place for innovation to take place and enable future innovations that we might not even be talking about today.
So Ben, let's talk about, if you were to tell a publisher why they should embrace header bidding and how that header bidding should look like, what would you tell them?
So header bidding is really just another word for unified auction. And what I mean by that is unifying all of your demand in one place and ultimately letting the highest bidder win. That's what it comes down to, right? It was initially designed as a bit of a hack into some ad servers, but really the concept is simple, is unified your programmatic demand in order to get the best revenue for your inventory and also give access to buyers. And that's something that Andrew actually was talking about on our the Beat TV series from Sling. Is there's also a very important buy-side component to header bidding, which is you're getting access directly to inventory by dealing with the publishers and then deciding what the supply path is that makes the most sense. So it's a critical component, and it really is important that the unified auction provider is an independent source, right? You can't be judge and party. You can't be bidding and deciding who wins. Just like there's specific data sets that shouldn't be shared, right? If one SSP has a private deal with an advertiser at a specific price, they might not want another SSP to know exactly all of those informations, right? So it's important that the publisher owns that part of the stack. It's important that that stack is run in a completely independent and unbiased way. And I think ultimately it benefits both the publisher from the sell side and from the yield perspective, and the buyer from the inventory access perspective.
So what about the log files? I mean, you've sort of touched on it, but what's important about the log files for publishers? Why is that essential?
So publishers have a very complex ecosystem to deal with, right? I think it was it Ethan from A&E on the Beat TV series that you interviewed a couple videos ago that was talking about how A&E's strategy has been to syndicate their content across all of the virtual MVPDs, across all the platforms. And so that means that you're having to deal with viewers that are watching your content in all types of places, right? And that translates into very different auctions that are being run. You're not going to get the same content signals. You're not going to get the same device signals. There's many things that change, right? And if you want to understand how your buyers are receiving those signals and how they influence their bidding strategies, you have to look at your logs. You have to be able to understand very specifically, what am I sending? What are people bidding on? And what could I add to my auctions to make those, to get the most value out of my users? So I think it's the important of auction logs is just the transparency for the publisher to understand what data am I seeing across all of my content, no matter where it's being watched, and how am I surfacing that to my buyers?
Ben, I want to ask about the bad actors entering the system. We've been covering that for a while. There's many forms of it, and particularly as the industry becomes more lucrative, more bad actors. What are some of your thoughts, advice? What are you seeing?
Sure. So I think it's an extremely important topic to talk about, because the whole promise of the connected TV ecosystem has been that ad dollars are going to shift from cable TV to connected TV as viewership continues to shift, right? And that trend is not slowing down. We all know the numbers. I think there's twice as many cable TV subscribers that are planning on cutting the cord this year compared to last year. So if you thought last year was a big change, I mean, nothing is slowing down. So obviously that's going to attract the good actors, but also the bad actors, right, that are seeing this huge revenue opportunity. And the problem is the bad actors are destroying the credibility of an otherwise fantastic ecosystem. And we have to face that issue. And so at Publica, we're involved with the IAB Tech Lab, where we're working on some really interesting initiatives around server-side certification of requests to make sure that when, as an SSAI solution, you're able to authenticate with any entity downstream to let them know, hey, this is the Publica SSAI, for example. The content is being delivered on, I don't know, sports publisher, for example, and really being able to regain trust in the system. And I think one of the big challenges we've had is historically the digital world has relied on client-side tracking for trust. They basically said, hey, if you want me to trust you, you have to let me put my JavaScript on your page. Well, guess what? We can't do that anymore. We can't have JavaScripts running on TVs. That's just not the right way to do it. But if we all lean into server-side measurement and authentication, which is what we're working on with the IAB Tech Lab, there are many ways that we can guarantee a fraud-free ecosystem by doing server-side measurement. I mean, I think it's the same way as, you trust your bank to send a wire without having to run code on their site, right? When you make a transfer, it's the exact same idea in AdTech. You don't have to run code to trust that the issuing entity is the one that it's supposed to be. And there are very advanced, cryptographic ways of doing that that I think are going to hit the industry in the next couple of months, and I think are going to be very widely adopted, because it's in all of the good actors' interest to get these new certifications adopted.
And Ben, finally, some thoughts on the marketplace from the buy side, what you're seeing there. Some lag, I guess, with the marketplace, with investment from brand marketers. Where does that stand? Where do you hope it goes this year?
So I think it's definitely been a bit of a slower transition on the buy side, but honestly, I wouldn't blame marketers. I think it's all about this trust factor that we talked about, right? That if the infrastructure is in place to be able to receive investment at scale, and for advertisers to understand, where are those ad dollars going and how are they converting then into sales? I mean, that's what it needs to come down to, right? It's attribution and being able to understand, for a dollar that I invest in CTV, what do I get out of it, right? So that's the part where I think there's still work to be done. And actually, Lukman from Roku in the Beat series, that he was explaining how Roku is constantly thinking about how can they address the marketers' issues, whether you're trying to do brand awareness campaigns and trying to have incremental reach on CTV, or whether you're trying to do performance advertising. And I think that's super interesting because connected TV now becomes not one part of your marketing mix that you're going to have to look into maybe sometime. It becomes the very center of it, where you can drive your campaign from your connected TV budgets and then decide where else you're going to activate. So I think it's about continuing to build this ecosystem where advertisers can feel very safe about investing in, and also about making sure that we're building the right measurement tools and attribution tools to make sure that marketers are seeing the returns on investment that they need to see.